Following Korea's liberation in 1945 and the establishment of South Korea in 1948, political instability and economic hardship plagued the nation. President Syngman Rhee's authoritarian rule, marked by corruption and electoral fraud, fueled public discontent. The Korean War, 1950 to 1953, further destabilized the country, creating a climate ripe for militarized control. By the late 1950s, protests against Rhee's regime grew, setting the stage for the first major declaration of martial law in modern Korean history. In April 1960, student-led protests erupted nationwide after Rhee's rigged re-election. Demonstrators in Seoul and Masan faced violent crackdowns, with police killing hundreds. The uprising, known as the April Revolution, forced Rhee to resign and flee to Hawaii. Martial law was declared to suppress dissent, but the movement succeeded in toppling the dictatorship. This marked Korea's first democratic transition, though military influence remained strong. On May 16, 1961, General Park Chung-hee staged a military coup, overthrowing the weak democratic government. Tanks occupied Seoul, and martial law was imposed nationwide. Park justified the coup as necessary to combat corruption and communism. His junta dissolved parliament, banned political activities, and ruled by decree. This coup marked the beginning of 18 years of authoritarian rule, with martial law as its foundation. In 1972, Park Chung-hee declared the Yusin Constitution, granting himself near-dictatorial powers. Under the pretext of national security, he dissolved the National Assembly and imposed emergency decrees. Martial law became institutionalized, with thousands arrested for dissent. The Korean Central Intelligence Agency, KCIA, terrorized opponents. Park's regime justified these measures as necessary for economic growth, but resistance simmered beneath the surface. In October 1979, massive protests erupted in Busan and Masan against Park's dictatorship. Students, workers, and citizens demanded democracy and an end to Yusin. Police responded with brutal force, but demonstrations spread nationwide. The unrest exposed cracks in Park's regime. On October 26, Park was assassinated by his own KCIA director, Kim Jae-gyu. This triggered a power vacuum and renewed martial law under interim President Choi Kyu-ha. On December 12, 1979, General Chun Do-hwan led a clandestine military coup, seizing control of the army. Without government approval, he arrested rival generals and consolidated power. Martial law was expanded, with strict curfews and media blackouts. Chun's faction, the Hana-ho, manipulated the transition to democracy promised after Park's death. By April 1980, Chun effectively controlled South Korea, setting the stage for greater repression. In May 1980, Gwangju citizens rose up against Chun's junta, protesting martial law and demanding democracy. For 9 days, armed troops besieged the city, killing hundreds. Civilians formed militias but were crushed by paratroopers. The massacre was censored for years, with state media labeling protesters as communists. Gwangju became a symbol of resistance, fueling later democratic movements, despite the regime's brutal suppression. In June 1987, nationwide protests erupted after police tortured a student to death. Millions demanded direct elections and an end to dictatorship. Facing international pressure, Chun's successor, Roh Tae-woo, conceded. The June 29 declaration promised constitutional reforms, ending decades of authoritarian rule. This was the last time martial law was declared in South Korea. The protests succeeded without bloodshed, paving the way for free elections in December. In October 1987, a new democratic constitution was ratified, introducing direct presidential elections and civil rights protections. Martial law provisions were stripped away, and political prisoners were released. Roh Tae-woo won the December election, but the system was now accountable to the people. The reforms marked the formal end of military rule, though former dictators retained influence. South Korea's transition to democracy, though imperfect, was irreversible. Today, South Korea reckons with its authoritarian past. The Gwangju Uprising is now commemorated as a pro-democracy movement. Former Presidents Chun and Roh were convicted of treason and corruption. Yet debates continue over justice for victims and the military's role in politics. Memorials and declassified documents keep history alive, reminding Koreans of the cost of democracy. The martial law era remains a cautionary tale about power and resistance.